he led his people to freedom and paid the ultimate price. Within months of Congo's independence, Patrice Lumumba, the nation's first prime minister, was captured, tortured, and murdered. His killers burned his body and dissolved it in acid. Only a tooth remained. But the question echoes still. Who wanted Lumumba silenced? And why? This is the story they tried to erase. But history remembers. To understand why Patrice Lumumba was murdered, you have to understand what he stood for and what he stood against. For 75 years, the Belgian colonial regime ruled Congo like a private plantation. Rubber, copper, uranium, extracted with blood, sweat, and silence. Millions of Congolese were mutilated, murdered, or enslaved. A nation rich in minerals, stripped of dignity. But then came Lumumba, a postal worker, a beer salesman, a man with a voice sharper than bullets. "We are no longer your monkeys," he once told a colonial officer. "We are men, and we want our freedom." In 1958, he joined other African leaders at the All-African Peoples Conference in Ghana, where the winds of independence were blowing strong. He returned to Congo with a mission: to break the chains. In less than 2 years, Lumumba went from a local activist to the leader of the independence movement. He founded the Mouvement National Congolais, not just for power, but for unity. A Congo for Congolese. No more tribalism, no more puppets. On June 30th, 1960, Congo gained independence, and Lumumba stood before the King of Belgium and did the unthinkable.
Je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais. À vous tous, mes amis, qui avez lutté sans relâche à nos côtés, je vous demande de faire de ce 30 juillet 1960.
Although the independence of the Congo is being proclaimed today, no Congolese will ever forget that independence was won in struggle. It was filled with tears, fire, and blood. We have experienced forced labor in exchange for pay that did not allow us to satisfy our hunger. Morning, noon, and night, we were subjected to insults and blows because we were Negroes. Who will ever forget the shootings that killed so many of our brothers, or the cells into which many who no longer wish to submit to the regime of injustice, oppression, and exploitation were thrown? Today, the Republic of the Congo has been proclaimed, and the future of our beloved country is now in the hands of its people. I call on all Congolese citizens, men, women, and children, to set themselves resolutely to the task of creating a national economy and ensuring our economic independence. Eternal glory to the fighters for national liberation. Long live independence and African unity. Long live the independent and sovereign Congo.
In front of the world, Lumumba exposed colonialism for what it was. The Belgians were furious. The West was alarmed. This man wasn't just a nationalist. He was a threat. He wasn't asking for permission. He was demanding justice, and that would make him a marked man.
Patrice Lumumba securely wrote. And with him were men who served in his cabinet when he was Prime Minister. They were bundled into a heavily guarded...
Independence had been declared, but the battle for Congo was far from over. In the shadows, old powers sharpened their knives. Within days of freedom, Congo fractured. Belgian officers refused to relinquish control of the army. The mineral-rich province of Katanga seceded, backed by Belgian forces and foreign companies. Lumumba called it sabotage, a coup in disguise. Desperate to preserve Congo's unity, Lumumba turned to the United Nations. But the UN refused to help him crush the Katanga rebellion, so he reached out to the Soviet Union, and that sealed his fate. In the Cold War playbook, neutrality was treason. Washington labeled him a communist. Moscow called him a hero. The CIA moved fast. In August 1960, CIA Director Allen Dulles approved the operation. The message was clear: eliminate Lumumba. Meanwhile, inside Congo, betrayal brewed. Colonel Joseph Mobutu, once Lumumba's ally, saw an opportunity. With US and Belgian support, he staged a coup. Lumumba was arrested, humiliated, and handed over to his enemies in Katanga, where Belgian officers awaited with orders. This was no longer politics. It was execution, dressed in diplomacy. The revolution was bleeding, and the world watched in silence. On January 17, 1961, Patrice Lumumba was taken into the woods, bound, beaten, starving. He had been flown to Katanga, the breakaway province backed by Belgium. There, under the watch of Belgian officers and Katangan rebels, Lumumba was tortured for hours. Then he was shot. 3 bullets, fired by a Katangan firing squad, but guided by foreign hands. Mobutu signed the arrest. Belgium facilitated the transfer. The West looked away. His body was buried, then exhumed, dissolved in sulfuric acid, a method so brutal even his bones wouldn't remain. Only a tooth survived. The man who dreamed of a united Africa was now a whisper. His wife never saw his body. His children grew up in exile, and for decades the truth was buried, under lies, denials, and sealed documents. In 2001, a Belgian policeman named Gérard Souete confessed. He helped destroy the body. He kept a souvenir, Lumumba's tooth, locked in a drawer. When asked why, he said, "For me, it was a curiosity, a conversation piece."
Et dans ça, on a donc la plus grande partie des corps a été
dissous.
Oui.
It would take 60 years for Belgium to return that single tooth. No justice, no trial, no names, just a nation still haunted by the ghost of its first leader. They tried to erase him, burned his body, silenced his voice, buried the truth. But Patrice Lumumba did not disappear. In the minds of the oppressed, he remained. In the words of revolutionaries, he echoed. Sankara called him a brother. Mandela called him an inspiration. His vision of a sovereign, united, dignified Africa outlived the bullets. In 2022, Belgium returned Lumumba's tooth to Congo. Placed in a golden casket, it was honored with speeches and songs. But can a tooth replace a stolen future? Can a ceremony rewrite a crime? Lumumba was 35th, a father, a leader, a symbol, and in the end, a martyr. Not for power, but for daring to speak before the world was ready to listen. His last letter to his wife ended with these words: "The day will come when history will speak. Africa will write its own history, and it will be a history of glory and dignity. That day is still coming, but now it speaks through you."